Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello. Welcome to the first episode of Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. I am so beyond excited to kick off this journey with all of you. And along the way, I'm going to be bringing on so many fabulous guests. And starting off with this first episode, I have with me my friend and co-writer, Madison Young.
Hi, everybody.
I'm so happy you're here. This is fantastic. And you had to be on for the first episode, so I'm thrilled you're here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and just we always have fun whenever we're together, especially whenever we're songwriting, but just to sit here and talk about it is so exciting.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm super excited. So today, Madison and I are going to be talking all about the gift of songwriting and why songwriters love songwriting so much. But before we dive into that, Madison, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got into songwriting?
Hi, everyone. I'm Madison. I'm a country pop songwriter from Maine, but I actually just spent the last 4 years in Los Angeles going to school there. I have been involved in music since I was little. Some of my earliest memories were sitting at the piano next to my grandfather when I was 4 or 5, and he was trying to teach me. And I remember begging for an acoustic guitar. So I started playing that when I was 7, and it's just gone on from there. I absolutely love music. It is such an important aspect of my life. And while I've been songwriting for what feels like forever, I've been truly passionate and dedicated to it since I was 14. We'll talk about this a little later, but songwriting is very cathartic and therapeutic for me. And so what drove me to become more dedicated to songwriting was actually the death of my grandmother. And I wrote a song about her and about everything that she means to me as a way for me to process my emotions and to get through that time. After sharing the song with other people and seeing how they connected with it, that's when I decided that I wanted to be a songwriter for my career. Because that's what songwriting means to me. It means connecting with others and being vulnerable and helping other people in any way you can, whether it be just a shoulder to cry on or, saying I've been there too.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate you sharing the story about your grandmother and how you wrote one of your first most special songs when you were 14. That's really young to kind of discover that. I was in college when I discovered my love for songwriting, but to be 14 and kind of realize that this is something that helps you work through something, I think is really special.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure that we're going to get into this more because I think cathartic songwriting is such a big prevalent thing. And I think many songwriters write music because it helps them process. So I'm sure we'll get into that more, but that was definitely the start of my songwriting was because I needed to process everything going on. And then it just translated into, oh my goodness, this is a career for me now,
Yeah, and speaking about how we met too, related to processing things through songwriting, we really connected through Missing California, which is what led us to write I Live Away From Me. And so I also think that not only processing things on our own, but when you get into a collaboration, you process things together. And I think that's something very special as well about songwriting.
Oh, definitely. I mean, just the fact that because we met at a songwriting retreat over Zoom back in August. And so not only were we connecting over both being songwriters, both being at this retreat, and both, having very similar experiences during COVID. And then also to bring in, we were connecting over missing Los Angeles in our second home. And for me, I know that is what started our friendship is because we were connecting over it and we just also happen to make great music from it, So it's really awesome when you can find those those similarities in both your music and in the people that you work with. And I think it helps us as storytellers when we connect with our audience, because like we want to tell a story that people want to listen to and want to be moved by. So just that connection is so vital for us.
It definitely is. And before we get any deeper into this awesome conversation, I want to bring up a very, very incredible quote by my favorite country artist and songwriter, Kelsea Ballerini, that Madison is going to read for us.
Songwriting was a gift that came to me when I needed it most.
That is so true.
So true.
And just going back to what you were talking about, again, when you're 14, you found that gift, you know? And I did as well when I was in college and I was really struggling my junior year of college. I was so overwhelmed and I needed something to help me through that difficult time. And exactly what Kelsey is saying here, that I definitely found songwriting at the right time. It's a gift that I found when I needed it most. And I think that's something that all songwriters can kind of relate to. We turn to this craft for a reason. And one of those reasons is something that we touched on already, being able to work through things and process things.
Exactly. And I think that for me, it was such a gift, like, when I discovered songwriting, but now it's a part of me that like I can't imagine myself without. And there's so many other songwriters that I'm, sure feel the same way. And so it's just so funny how something that, maybe when we were young, we didn't realize what songwriting was or what the importance of it could be, but now it totally shapes our lives and everything about it. So definitely a gift.
I definitely agree how when we were younger too, you brought up like you wrote songs when you were very young and you didn't really discover the gift until you were a teenager. And I think that is something that we all can kind of draw on to, because when I was little, I would write songs and not know what I was doing. I would just like to rhyme and stuff. Like, I thought I was like some kind of superstar, but I was like singing about trees and flowers and the most random things with my friends. And I think at a young age like that, it's all for fun because we're so innocent. And it's not till later when we start to realize that it is something much bigger. Yeah, you can songwrite for fun. I definitely do. But you have to look beyond the joy alone and realize that songwriting can be very therapeutic. I call my songs diary entries, like they're literally pieces of me. And also noticing that the songs that you share with others can touch their hearts as well. So it is definitely something very powerful, and it truly is a gift that we all have to share with the world.
Definitely. Definitely. Just touching on what you were just saying, I remember when I was young, I just found a journal notebook the other day of some lyrics that I'd written when I was like in second grade or whatever. And I remember when I was young, those lyrics and those melodies that I would come up with, quote unquote, they were totally pulled from my favorite artists of the time. Like, there's so many references. I mean, I love Taylor Swift now, but so many Taylor Swift references, so many like Rihanna and Beyonce references. And like, you can totally see the inspiration in that. And then as I grew older, you can still see the inspiration from my idols in my music based on genre and the cadences of the lyrics and just kind of the general flow. But as I begun processing who I was as a person, it then turned into, kind of original writing and things that, you wouldn't necessarily hear, word for word on a Taylor Swift album. So it was a gift because it taught me, okay, when I was younger, it taught me, okay, this is the basic form structure of writing a song. And, we can have fun with it and it can bring joy into people's lives and bring us confidence and whatever. But then it also taught me, okay, this is how to really express myself and learn who I am as a person, while also connecting with the people around me. So I think it just helped me become more grounded.
I agree with that. And I also want to touch on something you brought up about your inspirations, because I think that's really important to talk more about, because everybody is inspired by somebody no matter what you do. And I think as songwriters, it's super interesting and unique because whether we realize it or not, I mean, you and I definitely do, knowing our inspirations, but even if you're not consciously aware of it, the people you look up to and the songwriters that we look up to find a way into our song structure or lyrics or authenticity that we portray or whatever it might be. And I think that that's part of the gift too, because these songwriters don't know. I mean, Taylor Swift doesn't know that Demi Michelle Schwartz and Madison Ray and Young are like obsessed with her music and draw on her for inspiration. One day, hopefully, she'll know, but not now. But I think it's really special in that way too. That no matter who you are, we could be inspiring people. And it's like this constant transfer of creativity and inspiration and energy that I feel is kind of never ending. And I think that's super special as well.
Yes, totally. And just to talk about you saying like we could be inspiring somebody, that for me is like, while I'd love to be, working with Taylor Swift and, top of the charts, Grammy winning, award winning, whatever, for me the truest like form of success with songwriting is connecting and bringing inspiration and vulnerability and authenticity to our audience. Like, there's a song that I've been writing but haven't put out yet, and I wrote it like months and months ago, haven't touched it, and the other day I walked in the kitchen and my sister was humming the song, and I was just like, how do you remember that? And she's like, because I really connected with this lyric. And so like even that just like small example is enough for me to be like, oh my goodness, like, okay, this is bigger than I am. That's awesome, And so yes, while it is my dream to work with Taylor Swift, to put out a song and have somebody reach out and say, hey, this really connected with me. I 100% know what you're going through, and thank you for putting that out. That means more to me than anything in the whole world.
Completely. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And that's the thing for me. Like, I don't care about numbers. Yes, it's freaking awesome to see a song grow. But for me, it's what you said, knowing that people are connecting with it, getting those messages from fans and listeners and family members saying, hey, I love the song, I connected with it. And especially with LA Away From Me, I've gotten a handful of messages from people saying, this song reminded me of such and such place that I'm missing, and it allowed me to kind of remember the times I spent there and hoping I can go back soon. So that's what I love so much about it, because even though we write songs that are so personal to us and honest for us, anybody else can find their story in it. And I think that's so incredible that we're writing these songs essentially for ourselves when we do it, but people all over the world can find their meanings in it as well. And I think that's incredible.
I totally agree with you. And I've noticed, because as you know, I release music both as a songwriter and as a singer-songwriter. So I have a couple songs out that are like under my singer side, but then like with you, like you put out the song that we wrote together. So when I, first was starting my songwriting journey, I had decided I was going to be strictly a singer-songwriter. But as I've, grown older and figured out kind of things that I want for life, I'm actually leaning towards just being a strict songwriter rather than a singer-songwriter. But, I'm still in the process of making that transition. Anyway, I've noticed, though, that it's awesome when I write a really authentic song. Like, LA Will Wait For Me is so authentic to you and to me. Like, how like when we were writing, I was like, oh my gosh, are other people going to be able to connect with this? Because it is so personal to us. But then when you hand it over to the artist, when they find something within that they're like, oh yeah, that connects with me too, it's crazy. Because you're like, oh wow, this line about doing my shopping on Rodeo, right? Like, this line, is she going to be able to connect with that? And you totally did. And so it's just amazing to see that. But I also love songwriting because I don't have to be authentic. While I love to connect with audiences, I can just make up a fun song. Like, we were talking the other day about writing kind of a more sexy type song, which might not be something that I personally would release or really find authentic and vulnerable for myself, but it was just fun to write it. And so I like that songwriting can be that place that you can be cathartic and therapeutic and really become grounded with yourself. But it's also a place that you can just let go and be free and have fun and pretend that you're somebody completely different. And people will still connect with that because I think everybody's looking for a little bit of an escape.
I absolutely love how you brought that up. And I think that's where we can kind of draw the line between being specifically a songwriter and trying to get songs to other artists and being somebody releasing your own music. Because when I put out my own music, I have credit on that, songwriting credit on that. That's my story, that's part of me. And releasing it as an artist is so important to me that that's my story and it's from me and it's not made up. But on the other hand, if you're writing songs that you're not planning on releasing yourself, you can do whatever the heck you want and it's like really fun. Like I've been in so many co-writes that like they wanted to write a song that was completely out of my comfort zone or something I haven't experienced, but I do have a big imagination and I'm able to tap into that. So I love that side of the creativity too, that you can have fun and make up stories and share that side as well.
Totally. I just want to say another part of songwriting that I absolutely love is just the like, I don't know if void is the right word, but like the void that you go into when you're inspired. Like when you sit down at the piano and you feel that inspiration pouring out of you, hours pass by like seconds. And it's just crazy to see it. You kind of just like, for lack of a better term, word vomit onto the page. And just like you find out all these feelings that you did not know that you had, or you find all these stories within yourself that you're like, whoa, I didn't know I was that creative. And so like in the movie Soul, I don't know if you've seen that, but in the movie Soul, they talk about this, that, you know, when you're inspired and creative, you just kind of go into this like subconscious place. And it's so cool to think about that it's just who we are. It's just a part of us, and there's no detaching ourselves from that, but we can definitely like slip into that creative space and watch the magic happen.
I completely agree with that. And I think that's another very important part of songwriting as a gift because we always have that escapism. Like whenever we feel overwhelmed or need to process something or get inspired, songwriting is always there to give us that avenue of exploration and creativity. And that's one of my favorite things about it because it's something I know will always be there for me. There's so many things in our lives that can abandon us and not be there when we need it. And songwriting is something that I know I can always turn to and nothing will change that. And I think that is one of the things that I tell people when they ask me why I like songwriting so much, is because I can always rely on songwriting to kind of be my mirror, my diary, and reflect my feelings back at me.
Definitely. And I speaking, you keep mentioning diary, and with your upcoming album coming out, that's so fitting. But I love that in general, songwriters, I think, are acknowledging that. Like Julia Michaels, her 2 EPs in her monologue, like totally acknowledge that these songs are from literally our core. They are a part of us. And yeah, if the audience loves them because of a great groove, whatever, or a great melody, that's awesome. But when somebody connects to it based on what we're like truly saying, they understand who we are. They're getting a piece of us that we're not allowing, I guess, a lot of people to see. Because I think our songs are the most vulnerable parts of ourselves. You know, I wouldn't go out on the street and pour my heart out to a random stranger, you know, just sitting there talking, but I might hand them over my song and they'll see within the lyrics, oh my goodness, this girl has a lot going on, you know? And so it's definitely, our songs are definitely the most vulnerable part of ourselves. And so I think the more that we acknowledge that and we say, okay, this is us, you know, it makes for better songwriting and it makes for more dedicated audiences and bigger connections.
What is it about that though? That's something I've always tried to piece together because, like you said, these songs are us. They're the most vulnerable parts of us. And I've tried to write in an actual diary. It didn't work. And it was because I needed the music to process things. But either way, if I would write my lyrics, which are kind of, you can think of them as poems, you know, like there's rhyme and stanzas or whatever. If I would just write my lyrics and hand them to somebody, I would feel terrified. But if I would sing it for somebody, that's different. And I'm trying to think like why that is. It's something to do with the music and the way it's presented. But it's almost like when we present our stories in song form, it's not as scary. And that's always fascinated me.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And I think for me, just while you were talking, a couple ideas came to my head. For me, whenever I'm writing a particularly sad song, even though guitar is my main instrument, I always go to the piano because I love to hear all of like, you know, when you slam your hands down on the keys or you have this really big bellowing chord, you can hear kind of every hidden note and every vibration from the piano and whatever. And so I personally like to feel immersed in that. And while guitar can do the same thing, I don't know, for me, just like picturing Taylor Swift slamming her hands on the piano in the pouring rain, like that's the image that I want to have whenever I'm writing a sad song. But so part of that, I think, is just being totally immersed in letting yourself kind of have all those emotions, both like in your mind, in your writing, but also in the sounds around you. I think another piece of that is that when we write songs, even though we're pouring our heart out on the page, I still think sometimes I go, oh, okay, the audience isn't going to notice that one particular lyric that's completely giving myself away. They're not going to know that I'm crying inside because they're gonna miss it. So it's just playing yourself. It's just kind of feeding yourself a little lie that they're not going to know what you're talking about, but they definitely do. The audience is smarter than we think they are.
I want to touch on what you said about the audience and how they receive the song because I did a 5-day songwriting challenge with the Songwriting Academy, and the one who created Songwriting Academy, Martin Sutton, who's a hit songwriter, said something along the lines of, a listener doesn't care how a songwriter felt when they wrote the song. They care how they feel when they hear it. And I think that's really powerful because we can get caught up in, oh no, like what if this lyric reveals too much about me? Or oh no, what if they realize something about me that I never shared before? But at the same time, like when I listen to a song, I'm kind of thinking about how it makes me feel. And yes, if I love the artist, I can think, oh man, that sucks Julia went through that, or oh, I feel so bad for Taylor. Like we have those thoughts, but at the same time, like I'm thinking about how it makes me feel. And I think that's a side of the gift as well, is like you don't know how your songs are going to impact people. So we can't think too much about how we feel when people hear it. It's all about how the listener will receive it.
Totally. And I remember talking to Andrea Stolpe, who ran the retreat that we both went to, and she was saying when you're writing music, if you're going into it thinking, okay, I'm writing this song and I'm going to play it for 5 of my closest friends that know every single thing about me, you might be more hesitant to put all of what you're feeling into that because they know who the ex-boyfriend that you're talking about is. They know the story that you're talking about. They know every feeling and every line about you. And so you're going to be a little bit more guarded when you're doing that. But when you go from the perspective of, okay, tons of people are going to hear this, none of them know me, they don't know the backstory, you can really dive into that vulnerability and that authenticity because they're going to listen to it exactly as you do and as I do. They're going to listen to it and go, oh, this is how this makes me feel. This is how this connects in my life. They're not going to go, oh, Madison must have gone through a bad breakup. That sucks. Sorry, girl. You know? So that's totally the gift, is it grounds you, but then it tells you who you are and you can connect, but then it also kind of gives you that escape. You can step back and say, okay, yeah, this is how I was feeling, but this is kind of on you, the listener, now. Like, I've told my story. Now you get to make it how you want to.
Exactly. And I feel like what you brought up about what Andrea said Completely agree. I get terrified when I play my songs for my mom and for my sister because I was like, oh crap, like I'm like not really a vocal person. Like I keep things to myself. Twitter's like the deepest I go into my personal life. Sometimes I tweet things. I wake up the next day, I'm like, to me, you're an idiot. Take it down, but I leave it because people already saw it. But like when it comes to like showing my songs to my family and people close to me, I literally get terrified. And my mom literally has asked me, "You're literally putting this song out for anybody to hear. Why do you get nervous playing it for me?" And that's the reason. It's because she's my mom and she knows me. But somebody streaming my song in New Zealand doesn't know me, so it's different. And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah. Have you ever had somebody reach out after putting out a song and say, "Oh, is that about me?" Because I have.
Oh, no, not yet. But I'm afraid on my album I'm going to.
Yeah, no, the guy reached out and was like, "Is this about me?" And I was like, I'm not gonna tell you that.
No, literally, like, that's one of the things with my album. Like, I guarantee you that people are gonna know songs are about them. And you know what? Too bad. You can imagine that a song's about you. And you know what? Like, honestly, like, even if it's like, none of my songs are bad. Like, all my songs are really personal, but I'm not shading anybody in my songs. Like, I'm not Taylor Swift yet. I'm not gonna shade somebody. But if somebody, like, thinks a song's about them, think about me, for example. Like, if I was in that position, for somebody to be so affected by some kind of experience to literally write a song about me, I kind of feel flattered, wouldn't you?
Definitely. I mean, how do you think Harry Styles feels that 1989 is basically all about him? And a Grammy award-winning album is about him. I mean, yes, Taylor Swift does, like, kind of trash him a little bit. And I love Taylor. I say that with all the love. But yeah, I would feel proud. I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that I treated you that way, and I'm sorry that this is how you feel, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, I'd be proud.
Yeah, well, I'd be flattered too. And that is our timer going off, which means that we are at the end of the first episode of Right on Track. Before we go, Madison, what are some final thoughts you would like to share about songwriting being a gift?
For me, songwriting is the most important aspect of my life, and I can't imagine my life without it. I can't even remember a time before songwriting entered my life, and so it really is truly the best gift that was ever given to me. It's something that can be therapeutic and cathartic, but it can also be so fun and freeing and allow myself to escape. And just connecting with others through songwriting, whether it be other songwriters or the audience listening to it, has been such an amazing experience for me. And I think that if you're a songwriter, you definitely know what I'm talking about. If you're not a songwriter, you should try it out. You should try your hand at songwriting because it's such a wonderful, blessed gift that we've been given, and so freeing and motivating and empowering for me. Kelsea Ballerini said it best, that songwriting was a gift that came to me when I needed it most, and it's something that helps me every single day.
I couldn't have wrapped this up better myself. And as songwriters, we need to always remember that songwriting is a gift. And this podcast is going to explore every aspect of being a songwriter, from the creative side to networking to the challenges as well. And I always have to remind myself that even during those difficult times, that songwriting is a gift, no matter the challenges and obstacles that I face because of it and trying to grow as a songwriter. And I think that's something we all have to keep in mind as well as we move on with this journey. So Madison, thank you so much for being on. I couldn't have had a better guest for the first episode. So where can everybody find you on social and check out your music?
Sure, thanks to me. You can find me on Twitter at Madison Rayanne, Raeanne, or on Instagram at madison.rayanne. And then on Spotify, it would be easier if all of my names were the same, but on Spotify, it's just under Madison Young, and you'll find my 2 songs there.
Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much again for being on you're going to be back very soon for another episode.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. So everybody stay tuned to hear Madison's lovely voice on with me again. But until next time, stay right on track.